Kamel Salim, you've got Tom Doyle. And Tom, again, I want to start with you in opening this segment. We have folks in Saudi Arabia that tell us they're watching secretly, people in Tehran, Iran. We've got people in Egypt and other parts of the Muslim world. And let's go to Saudi Arabia because I'm fascinated with this thing. Found out, and what is God doing?
Well, you know that there's a feeling around the world today that because people watching the news and because of the realities of fundamentalist Islam, that many people either are afraid of Muslims or might even hate them. And that's where Jesus comes in. You know that there's a young woman named Aisha, and Aisha is in a practicing Muslim family. She went and made the Hajj, and while she was there, she started to have dreams. She started to have an encounter with Jesus. She doesn't say anything to anyone. She's certainly afraid. What does this mean? But she sees a man in a white robe that says, "Come, follow me." Well, months later, she's at a cousin's house in Jordan. And as they're watching television, her cousin starts to flip the channels, and she stops on one. And there's an Egyptian preacher, and the first words out of his mouth is, he says, "Some of you are having dreams about Jesus. He has a message for you. He is honoring you. He wants to speak to you, and you need to listen." And she's just shocked that this happened. Well, she didn't know it, but her cousin Reem had been having dreams about Jesus and privately became a follower of Jesus, a Muslim background believer. And a conversation started when Aisha just confessed, I'm having dreams. I'm having visitations. I don't know what to do. And they had time together over the week, and Reem leads her cousin Aisha to faith in Christ. She's ready to go back to Saudi Arabia, but they decided they needed to do something to help spread this message of love that is so absent in their culture. They took and they found small New Testaments, and they sewed them into the hem of her hijab, and she got into Saudi Arabia and was able to deliver Bibles to some underground believers in the capital city of Mecca. And privately in the middle of the night, they're reading the New Testament, worshiping Jesus quietly. See, Jesus said that upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not be able to stand. In other words, the gospel will bust through. Nothing can stop it. No man, no religion, no country, no empire. And Jesus is taking the message of salvation and his bold love for Muslims and the rest of the world right into the spiritual capital of Islam in Mecca.
Yeah, we got more stories that he's going to relate to you, but let's go to Kamal. Kamal, you came out of the world of terrorism at the age of 4. Your mother starts telling you stories out of the Quran that you wanted to become a warrior, wanted to kill the infidels. At 7, you're chased into a mosque, and the Muslim Brotherhood befriends you. Tell me about some of your friends that you found in the Muslim Brotherhood. One of them taught you how to shoot an AK-47. Your first bullets flew out of the gun, and Abu Jihad, or also known as Khalil al-Wazir, was Yasser Arafat's right-hand man and head of the military arm of PLO. He's the one that befriended you right from the beginning and trained you. And I want to know, what were you trained, even at 7 years of age? What were you taught in your mind?
It's amazing. In that world, they know that children are just like a sponge. They will take anything and into their spirit, man. And we were not loved. In Islam, we don't have unconditional love. Over there, everything is conditional. When I met him, Khalil, and he took me in, and he became like a father to me, and he protected me from everyone else. Although I was learning, we were learning the 50 caliber, we were mixing TNT explosive, making dynamite from scratch. We were learning how to kill, how to shoot, how to detonate, how to disable the military forces, airplane, cars, tanks. We were learning all kind of things, even to the point to give our life, and we were taught that when you give your life, Allah will bless you with open heaven with 72 version, and with every version, He will give you 72 version. So when you die for the sake of Allah, you go into a place, the land of plenty, and that's in outer space, and it's called paradise. this is what we're taught over there. We were given our life for something that it doesn't even have, it doesn't have density to it, and but we were kids.
When you were on some of those missions, all of a sudden, people were firing real bullets back at you, and they were slaughtering a lot of the friends that went with you. And when you came back into town, carrying some of those dead bodies with you, you were still hailed as a hero. But what were you thinking in your own mind? Why did you stay in this thing where you realized from that point on, you could die almost any day?
When I went over there, I thought we are chosen by Allah, and we are hero, and we're gonna die, and we're gonna see Him. But when I realized that, my families, all my friends, they're dying for nothing, and then I was questioning everything. Is Islam is true? Is the God of Islam was power, or the enemy, the Jews and the Christians? I started seeing into those, and when I was in a battle, even this man appeared out of nowhere, and he took me down. He hid me behind a rock until everything slowed down, and then I took Muhammad and ran in. But when I came out of this, I felt that my life I felt like I'm a loser. I felt, oppression, depression, and a lie came upon me that we are destined for nothing. And, all this lie that we've been buying, it has no value spiritually or physically. We don't know where we're going.
But you stayed in it.
Stayed in it because I have no other place. They were my family. And this is the place where you cannot leave. If you leave, you're dead.
All right. You were among the PLO, among Fatah. You were trained in the camps. And we're going to talk next week about how Brotherhood sent you down to Libya under Muammar Gaddafi to train international terrorists. And you did, because you became an explosives expert. What I want to ask you, and I want to come to the general next, we are being told by our leadership here in America that radical Islam is on the decline. From your perspective, do you think that's true or false?
It's on the contrary, it's not. See what's happened in Boston. See what's happened in Fort Hood. See what's happened, in New York bomber. All these men are recruited in mosques here in the United States of America and radicalized to go to the forefront. Islam right now believe they are in the last days, and this is where everybody will become Muslim. So therefore, the Muslim Brotherhood is on the acceleration.
Yeah, we're going to take a break because we're out of time right here. But when we come back, General, I'm going to ask you about some of the headlines. If you just take 5 minutes and go to the internet, the kinds of headlines we see about radical Islam, and I'm going to ask you, is it growing or is it being dissipated? And we'll talk about that when we come right back. Stick with us. All right, back. We're talking with three fascinating guests, Tom Doyle, Kamal Salim, and General Boyka. General, you're former commander of Delta Force. You became commanding general of all U.S. Special Army forces around the world. You served at the Central Intelligence Agency in clandestine missions. 4 years, you were Deputy Undersecretary of Defense. When I ask you this question about radical Islam, you're the one that knows. Our government today is telling us that Al-Qaeda and radical Islam has dissipated. It's been eradicated. Yet I took 5 minutes and looked at the internet headlines, and I saw Turkey and Europe, problem with radical Islam. Stemming the tide of radical Islam in India. Radical Islam spreading in Siberia. Radical Islam's surging in the Balkan. Iran's Rouhani caught on film, I advanced nukes through deception. My question, is radical Islam being eradicated, or is it growing in your estimation?
No, John, right after 9/11, the estimates were that the radicals within Islam was about 10% of 1.5 billion. Today, that estimate runs between 15 and 20%. So the data shows that it is on the rise. It is not declining. Now, that is largely due to the success of the Arab Spring in terms of bringing the Muslim Brotherhood into power in places like Egypt and Libya and Tunisia, and soon in Syria, most likely. And that is because the West, I read that as Western Europe and the United States, have ignored the threat, have been unwilling to deal with it, And as a result of that, the propaganda machine of the Islamists, of those radicals that call for jihad and Sharia, they've been encouraged and they've used that as propaganda to, in fact, recruit more people to the jihadist cause. It is growing. It is not declining.
Tom, in one of the books that you wrote, you talk about what you saw in the Gaza Strip area. Tell me about that.
Yeah, one of the universities in the Gaza Strip, it was time to sign up for classes. And there were two lines that were visible that day. One was the line to register for college. Another was to sign up to be involved in jihad. They were giving classes on suicide bombing and how to stand up to Israel. The line was much longer for the radicals, those that wanted to do jihad rather than complete their college education.
Kamal, what did you want to say about this?
You know, the Quran states, it says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Those who are died in martyrdom, that they're alive and prospering before Allah. So therefore, the call for jihad is greater than education in the Middle East.
All right. Tell me some of the organizations that you were a part of, terrorist organizations in the Middle East. And tell me then about when you were sent to the United States by the Brotherhood to do cultural jihad. What was that all about? Kind of define terms for us.
Whether you are Al-Qaeda or Muslim Brotherhood, both of them have the radical ideology, and both of them operate under